I agree.
Okay, and then the ones who just came in, your name and who you're with, and do you like pumpkin spice or not?
My name is Kylie, and I'm with the San Diego Cultural Capital Region, and yeah, I do. Sometimes. My name is Jamie Baumgartner. I'm with Capital Materials and Capital Bluffs Event Center, and I like pumpkin spice in the fall only.
Awesome. Give me all the caramel and the Honeycrisp apples. Like, that's my fall jam. But I don't like pumpkin spice.
I mean, I thought I made my opinions clear.
Okay. I'm just giving you the platform to say it again.
I like my coffee black and my beer to taste like beer.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about creating content for various social channels. Like Kenny said, we're pretty relaxed. If you have questions, feel free to ask and jump right in. So the first thing we're going to talk about is best practices. The biggest mistake that we see brands make is they link their channels. So when you post, like on Facebook, it also goes to Twitter and Instagram and anywhere else. Don't do that. If you do that, go as soon as you're done here, go back to your office and unlink everything.
And this HootSuite obviously is one of the #1 offenders, or at least aiding and abetting in platforms. Because early on, when people started out, really getting into this, HootSuite was born, and you started sharing, your Facebook posts on Twitter, and then all of a sudden your Twitter followers are seeing FB period and then a big link. They're not going to click that. Some of them don't have Facebook. Other people don't know exactly what it is. There's no hook there, right? And then thirdly, you're on Twitter, so you want to tweet. So you want to make sure that not only do you not carbon copy your content, because your content might be worth something on Facebook, but it might not be worth as much on Twitter, but you definitely do not want to link content from Facebook to Twitter. Get a little creative and cater the content and the posts for the individual platforms that you're on.
But it's so easy.
It is, isn't it?
I guess I need a little more explanation of that, because I feel like my followers on Facebook are different than Twitter, so the messages that I send are similar, so I kind of love HootSuite.
Well, so two things that stuck out to me.
Okay.
My followers on Facebook and Twitter are different, and that's true in a couple different ways. They might very well be different people, but they're also different people with different likes and interests. And so you have to cater your content to what your audience wants to see, your Twitter audience wants to see on Twitter, and your Facebook audience wants to see on Facebook.
And it's different.
Now the second thing, but more importantly, the second thing that you said that really jumped out to me was similar, right? And that's a great word. For example, if you've got a 5K that you're advertising, yes, of course, advertise the 5K on Facebook and advertise the 5K on Twitter. What I'm saying is, don't write a post that works for the specifications of a tweet and then copy that and paste it into Facebook and then use the same image, because guess what? The image sizes are different, and you've got different amounts of content that you can include. Instagram, you can have, paragraphs. You can write a whole story behind it, underneath a picture. But if you do that on Facebook, chances are people are not going to click continue reading. You can't do it on Twitter unless you have multiple tweets. So when I say don't copy content from channel to channel, what I really mean is stay thematic, yes, but don't necessarily copy and paste across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Because you do have people that do follow you on all of them, and when brands start doing that, I will unfollow them on channels. I'm like, you know what, if you're going to post the same thing everywhere, then I only need to follow you in one place. I don't need to follow you over here.
That's true.
And the same goes, and we're going to show some examples with some bigger brands that have been using the exact same image and video and message on every single channel. And it's funny, and that's just, some of them are good. I'm like, this is such good content, but they're posting it at the exact same time across every channel, and it just dilutes the funny. You're like, they're not even trying.
And it's important to point out that, a lot of the things that we're going to talk about here, we are absolutely offenders of, right? We've all done it.
Sure.
And so this is a judgment-free zone, but this is just the best practices that we've seen work, and we also see major brands adapting to as well. So.
We covered that already. Okay, so the first stuff we're going to talk about is if your business is mainly marketing, or your organization is mainly marketing to customers. So we're going to kind of cover business to customer content and then business to business content. You can take the stuff that we are going to share and use it in other ways, but that's just kind of how we decided to break it out. So the first two platforms we're going to talk about is Facebook and Instagram, because they tend to be the two big players if you're trying to market to customers. So Facebook, why do you want to be on Facebook? As of, I don't remember when it was, they have over 2 billion monthly active users. So Facebook is the big one, right? We all need to be on Facebook. I mean, I would argue that every business or organization needs to have a Facebook page. 89% of marketers use their Facebook as part of their brand social strategy, 65 million small businesses, and it is the most popular among middle-aged adults. So if that's who you're marketing to, you definitely want to be on Facebook.
Yeah, and I would echo Natalie's sentiment. Even though my favorite platform personally is probably a tie between Twitter and Instagram, that doesn't mean that the majority of the consumer population isn't on Facebook. I mean, that's where people are.
And Facebook tends to be informational. So a lot of people will check your Facebook page before they'll check your website. Especially if they're looking at, like, I mean, I did that when we were trying to go to Big Sur for multiple weekends when it was freezing in August. It's 93 today. Bitter. So bitter about that. I would check the Big Sur Facebook page to see if they were open or not their website. So keeping that in mind, like, it's kind of become like the information hub for a lot of places.
And it also goes without saying, if you're a nonprofit or you're an event-driven organization, that you can create events that when people have interest in, they can express that interest, and then guess what? Facebook notifies them when the event draws to a close, and you don't even need to worry about crafting the next e-blast to do that necessarily, because you've got Facebook in that person's pocket, you know, doing that. If people have questions about an event, they don't call you, more than likely. People don't want to call anybody anymore. They just want to do this all day. And if they can't text you, what are they going to do? And actually, they're probably going to do it first. They're going to go to your Facebook page. They're going to try to find your event. They're going to go into the comment section. They're going to ask you their question right there. So really, Facebook, in a lot of ways, is really your primary rock for the most organizations. And then there's other things that you can use secondarily.
Instagram is the fastest growing social media site. So they just hit 1 billion monthly active users. So that's another one that, you know, we always say, get on one or two platforms and do them really well. For most of us in this room, Facebook and Instagram are the two that you want to be on and doing well. Some of them would be like Modern Litho, like there's some other ones that I could see, which we'll get to that section. But for the most of us in here, these are the two where you want to be at right now.
Well, and obviously it goes without saying that Instagram is a very photogenic social media. So if you've got an organization where the majority of what you're dealing with is documents and I don't know, words and it's not visually appealing, excuse me, that's the not coffee speaking. Then Instagram might not be your secondary place. If you're not that anyone in here is boring, but sometimes if you don't have a fancy shop front, or look at this new dress, or look at this new product, or look at this person that we helped, or something like that, then Instagram really isn't going to work as well for you as maybe another channel. So.
And the other thing, I'm trying to see, no, what about that there. The other difference between the two, and the way that I see these working together, is Facebook is the information hub. Instagram is where you build the relationship with people. So people get to know you on Instagram through stories and your content. There are multiple big time bloggers that I'm like, oh, Kate from Naptime Kitchen. We're BFFs. We talk all the time. No, she has millions of followers. But we have that relationship through Instagram. So they work really well in that, where you can really build the relationship on Instagram and create that personality of your brand.
I would also say there's more positivity on Instagram. So if you go to Facebook, so Twitter is really, in my opinion, the cesspool of social media. Okay, that's where negativity just lives. And it's kind of made its way to Facebook as people have gotten more comfortable with an online persona. But Instagram is still pretty positive. There's not a whole lot of people going on there to trash talk your brand or something you're doing by a picture that you post. So if you've got an organization that has a lot of positivity, then that's a good place for you to thrive, because there's a lot of people that want to go on there and just like pictures all day and read stories. Go ahead, Cassandra.
Would you say that Instagram, the average age of the follower or the user is a lot younger than Facebook? You
Absolutely.
said middle age was Facebook.
Yeah.
I know even like our customers that are younger are asking us, is Modern Litho on Instagram? So
Yes.
we added it, but
Absolutely. And it's, I think Instagram, for a while it was skewing more teen, and now it's, again, because now us old people are getting on there.
Yeah.
So they're going somewhere else.
It's like a wave in a stadium, right? Except for each area of the stadium is just a different demographic. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah. But yes, I mean, 20s and 30s is your Instagram age.
I mean, I still have a Facebook, but I was much more active on Facebook in college when my parents weren't on it. Now that I'm 32 and basically the age that my parents will always be in my mind, I don't mind being on Facebook a lot because I'm not hiding anything, but at the same time, that younger audience, the always 20-somethings, they're not posting on Facebook as much because they know that, old fogies like me and my parents are on there watching and judging them. So, good point. And that's something you want to do. Before you decide to pick a channel to really invest in, definitely do the research into the demographics that each of those channels serve. I mean, you've got Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. They've all got very different segments of the population that they serve.
Okay, so as you're creating content for any channel, you want to think about what is the solution that you are providing, not necessarily just the product that you sell. So, for example, obviously here at the library, we have books, but but the solution we try to provide is entertainment for you on a rainy day when it's chilly. It'll ever be chilly outside, and you ever have a cup of coffee. Really bitter this morning.
She said I wasn't going to get off
I
that.
know, right?
Well, and digital, right?
Yeah, and just, the entrepreneur who can't necessarily afford to pay for all of these trainings, but we have those trainings for free. So just thinking about the solutions that you have, you're going to go a lot further than just the product you want to sell.
You want to have a sales mindset when you're doing this, not exclusively because you want to be a person, you want to be human, but at the same time, what about your product or service attracts you to your product or service, and share that, because there's other yous out there looking for those products or services that would benefit.
Behind the scenes, images, how-tos, your staff, all of that makes great content that people are super interested in seeing. And then obviously you want it to be visually appealing, whether it's photos that you're taking or videos that you're creating. You want the sound quality to be good. It doesn't have to be movie quality, but you want it to be visually appealing.
Generally speaking, people won't watch videos with sound if they can't hear the person speaking. It doesn't matter if it's not the best pickup in the world, but if they can't hear the person speaking, they're going to shut it off. So if you've got that, make sure that audio, that's not audio quality, it's can you even hear what you're supposed to hear?
Don't use stock images. Take your own pictures.
A little irony there.
And that's even something, one of the examples, Gus Wagner said this a few years ago, and I always thought it was a good idea. Like when we have 4th of July or Memorial Day, and people use the stock images of a flag, there are 1,000, just walk outside and take a picture of one, just snap a photo. So I always thought that always makes me think of it a little bit differently when I'm like, okay, if there's something that's like a stock image, can I just create that myself? And usually yes, with my cell phone. So it's not like I have all this high-tech equipment.
And for the record, Gus Wagner of the Rocket Group, which is a great local digital marketing organization. So check them out. If you don't know them, follow. He's got great content.
Okay, and then what kind of content do you want to create? Oh, I did talk about this. It was just further ahead. Okay. So again, Facebook is more informative. Finding ways to utilize the reaction option. So a lot of them don't. A lot of social media channels like Instagram don't have that. But when you're like, if you had a great time at this festival, love this picture, right? So it gives people to use the love or the laugh or the the different reactions. So that just helps with the algorithm. It's just an easy way to kind of boost your content.
One thing though, if you do that and you go into Facebook's analytics, or if you use HootSuite or something, there's other channels that, or other platforms that manage this for you. Some of them have negative reaction meters that'll say like this amount of your content is negative content, and this amount of your content is neutral content, and this is positive. Well, obviously, if you're asking people to like use the sad face, that might mean something different than what the algorithm picks up on. Or like, for example, if you post something like, look at what happened to this dog by this owner, isn't this awful? And then all the comments are horrible, terrible, sad, whatever. That's going to feed into your negative reaction meter. So if you use that as a metric to see, like, is the content that I'm posting resonating with my audience? You might just remember that you might have, posted some things that might elicit a negative reaction, but that negative reaction is actually agreeing with you, or it's in favor of what you're saying. So,
sharing content from other pages. If you follow the library, we love to do this because there's a lot of really funny, like book-related pages. And we don't just take it from it; we actually physically share it and add our own little comment to it. And then the other thing is links work in posts and comments. So it's different than in other social media channels where if you post a link, it won't work, but it does on Facebook. And then again with Instagram, you're really creating relationships. You can share content in the feed and in the stories, which Facebook has added stories to. Honestly, I don't really get on Facebook stories that much. I live on Instagram stories. I think they're hilarious.
Can confirm.
He's like, can you turn that down? I don't care about how that lady stores her tea in her cabinet. I'm like, no, look at this tip. This is great.
I got her AirPods. I mean, come on.
You can utilize influencers on Instagram, and those can be like paid influencers, or those can be just your friends who really like your page and have a following. And then a lot of times with Instagram, the link in bio. So that's with Instagram, the only way that links work is in your bio. So I use a service that's called Linktree. And with it, you can put multiple links in there. So if I say link in bio, people click on my link in my bio and it takes them to a page where they can click on like my Rothy's referral code, or my Norwex link, or my Stories That Stick link. So like, there's different stuff on there.
Natalie,
Yes.
you utilize influencers. I mean, so like, how?
So for you, like what I would do is your like best customers, like I would talk to them and be like, hey, if you can share 3 or 4 stories over a month about your experience at Tan Club, I'll give you a free lotion.
Okay.
Or something like that.
Think all the times we've talked about brand ambassadors and using your number one fans to boost your organization.
Okay.
The number one way that businesses receive leads is through referrals for the most part. And it's the same with many other things. And so if you can get a digital referral, it's almost as powerful. Especially, if Natalie follows someone that has millions of followers and she really likes the content that this person posts, and then this person goes out and says, hey, you should try this because I like it, and they're not paying you to tell you that, Natalie's going to be much more apt to try that thing than if she had just seen an ad.
But if you are offering, like, for example, if you say, hey, Natalie, I know that you are active on Instagram and you love my product, I'll give you a free lotion in exchange for XYZ. They do need to put on their post like #partner or #sponsored or #ad. And I don't know 100% like the breakdown of what means what with that, but they do need to put that on there if they're getting something from you for it.
Oh, really?
So like we've done.
Well, it's just good practice because you're being transparent.
It's the law.
Is it the law?
It's the law.
It's the law now. So it's good
not
practice to
good
follow
practice.
the law.
Legally, you have to do it. And Instagram, like, granted, if you're somebody in Jefferson City with 300 followers, they're probably not going to come after you. But they do go after a lot of people. Like the Kardashians have gotten in trouble. There's been a bunch of people who have gotten in trouble. But like we've done it for the library, like Leslie Bickle, who is a local community person here, who has a decent following, and it's fun. Like people like when we did Book Box, I was like, hey, I'm gonna let you try the Book Box first. Will you talk about it? And same with Aaron Hart from the radio. And that wasn't, we didn't have to do like sponsored or paid or because we're the library, it's all free. You can all get a book box. But we tried to tap into those people that had decent followings and get them to use it. So. But yeah, no, for you especially, and like your before and afters, and like there's a lot of opportunity for you to use local influencers.
First, I have to get off HootSuite.
Yes.
Well, you don't have to get off HootSuite. HootSuite has a lot of great tools. I want to be clear about that. I put that logo up there to say it's the #1 aider and abetter of this because you can link and you can post on multiple channels at the same time. HootSuite has a lot of great tools. I don't know of another platform that works as well as HootSuite to monitor multiple feeds, or even, we use it for reporting, like internally. We don't, you could use Facebook analytics and all that stuff, but then it doesn't look pretty, and it's difficult for some people that don't know what they're looking at to understand what they're looking at. So HootSuite has great graphing tools and reporting tools. So stay on HootSuite if that serves you. Just don't, just avoid avoid the FB period link in your tweets. That's what you want to get away from.
No, I like the idea of influencers. I just didn't know.
Okay, so we're going to kind of touch through some example content so you guys can kind of be thinking about how you can recreate something like this yourself. So this is an example of some stuff that we have shared, the library has shared from other pages, and just added our own kind of content to it. So this is one that, what?
Well, I was gonna say, but it's important. You shared it.
I shared it. Like they can go to the original
She
page.
didn't save the image and then post it,
Which, arguably, when there are these kind of images that are floating around in 1,000 different places, you can.
Natalie, how many versions of Scrabble do we have? You have a
I know.
camera.
I could have
Follow
just done
Gus
this
Wagner
myself.
and just take it, but you have to pick it up
I could
afterwards.
have just done it myself. So this is one that just bought a book from IKEA. And we just added, it's been a busy weekend. Haha. And then here's one. And this one, actually, we had a lot of comments for us. Like 9 comments, 9 shares, 186 reactions. Like, apparently people are very annoyed when they start a book that's part of a series and they didn't realize it. We had one lady, she was like, yeah, I bought a book from your book sale and I didn't realize it. And then I had to buy 11 other books in the series. And I was like, that's commitment. So finding, and what I do for stuff like this, so I obviously follow like awesome librarians and different pages that have funny content that kind of go with me. I have a group on Facebook. It's just called Social Media Content. I'm in it and Kenny's in it because to be a group you have to have one other person. And when
That's why I'm in it.
So when I see this stuff on Facebook, I share it into that group, and then when I'm like, oh, I need to come up with something funny today, I go look in that group and then I pull it. So that's how I save that content for future use. I know it's really good when Kenny reacts to it in the group. I'm like, ooh, that one was funny. He actually laughed at that one.
Because I wasn't aware that I was in the group. Well, and another thing that's a good idea is, again, network with people and work with people who are your peers. Again, a lot of us are marketers in the room, or we are, ipso facto marketers because we have to be. So when I see content on Twitter, because I'm more on Twitter, Natalie's more on other channels, so when I see content on Twitter, I go ahead and share it with her, and then she can use it for the library. And so, basically crowdsource your content sometimes. Again, share it if it's someone else's idea. Now you can obviously riff off of other people's idea. We'll get to that.
And then here, yes.
How important is it to make a comment? Can you just share, or do you need to make a comment?
It usually for me it depends on what they said here. Like if this is just really funny, then sometimes I'll just share it. There's not a hard and fast rule.
And besides, if you're doing it like on Facebook, you see, it's people know that this is shared content, so they can go down and laugh, haha, oh, it's from Cheeseburger, I'm going to click Cheeseburger, or you can just immediately like the page because you know that content is theirs. And so you're giving the props to the person who created it. Now obviously, there are times where, Cheeseburger, I don't know, and even Awesome Librarians that's probably not affiliated with anybody, they might have vulgarity in it, you might not be able to use that content as such. but you might be able to say, oh, saw this funny image, and tag them from awesome librarians. And then you can still share the content without clicking the share button and sharing the vulgarity.
Some other examples of content that you can use. We do a celebrity story time, so we always do a headshot of our celebrity storyteller, and we make sure we tag their page, because then it alerts them, and then they're able to share it onto their page. So that cross-promotion is really beneficial. And same here, the Rotary Club gave the library a grant, and so we made sure we tagged them in our thank you post.
It helps when you're managing both channels.
Accurate. Then I manage this page too. So, but it works out well then. And there's a lot of ways with that, especially with us in the room. Like, I feel like we've kind of formed this community here with the social media forum, and all of us sharing content back and forth and tagging other people is super beneficial. And like Madison's is great with that with the library. Like, they'll just randomly share our calendar and be like, hey, been to the library lately? And we're like, thanks, Madison's. Like, great. And then some other examples of different content that you can do. So with this kind of stuff is more like storytelling, and we've been trying to, like, you hear storytelling, it's a very big like buzzword right now in marketing. But we've been trying to kind of put that into our stuff a little bit more. So don't be afraid of like the longer captions about stuff, and just using photos to kind of tell stories. It's just a new way to kind of think about it. So.
If you have an engaging photo, people are going to be more likely to click continue reading if it's a truncated post, okay? But remember to put your hook at the tip of the iceberg. Don't put your hook 3 paragraphs down. Put the interesting thing that people care about at the top. That way they continue to read. And we'll probably start buzzing through these examples a little quicker just to make sure that we get you guys out of here at 9 o'clock since we started a little later.
This is one of my favorite posts. Yeah. So Catherine and I were at breakfast at Oscar's, and we got done. She said, "Mom, that was the best breakfast I've ever had." And I was like, "Come outside. Let's take a video of that in front of their logo." And so then, of course, we sent it to Oscar's, because that's one of the things Kenny and I try to do, and it's something I encourage other marketers to do. When you're at another business and you can get content for them, get it and send it to them, because it makes it so much easier for them to do things. And so then it was fun because Catherine's birthday was last week, so they shared the video with a happy birthday post for her on their page, so she thought she was super hot stuff. Look, I don't know.
Just like, why are you breaking things?
I'm not.
It works.
We don't have
It was
sound.
working.
Do we have sound anyway?
She always breaks things.
It's true.
Hey, we're mirroring. See, look at that.
Maybe.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna open up the animation pane and show you. See, look, there it is, guys. I animated this correctly. Oh, no, sounds on. All right, we're gonna move on. It's a video. You get the point.
She says, "This is the best breakfast I've ever had." It was really good. Okay. Okay, so now content for Instagram. Some of this is stuff that we've talked about before, but if you have a long picture like this, Unsquared is an app that you can use to cut it up and do multiple posts on Instagram, and then you can see here in the feed what it looks like. So that's another like engaging way to, maybe you have a class picture, like maybe you do marketing for a school, or maybe you have a machine that's super big at brown printing, and so you can't fit it into one picture.
I think you have 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah.
Just a few giant
It's always a challenge.
machines.
Does not work on social media.
Yeah. So these are just ways. The biggest thing with that is to make sure in your post that either you put the dots or you put like to be continued or something so people know that there's more than just one, obviously.
So quick question on that.
Yes.
So that would be a post that you would post them one right after the other?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
You wouldn't
And make sure you do it in the right direction.
Yeah.
Like make sure you post this one first, this one second, this one third, or else they'll be out of order here and won't look right.
Well, and obviously, if it's up further on your profile page or whatever the heck it is, if you post, the next picture you post is going to make them out of sequence. And so, for a little while, it would be a good idea for you to remember that and kind of try to push it down as quick as possible to keep it level. Obviously, once it gets below first scroll, I mean, whatever, people aren't going to care as much, but.
Utilizing grids is another great way on Instagram to create content, and there's some different ways that people do it. So, Kendra Hall, she's awesome. You should all go follow her on Instagram. She also has a book coming out next week about storytelling, and it's super awesome. Her grid is a little different, so like she'll do where she has these kind of posts, and as you scroll down, it's like the diagonal, but then groups in between. So that's one way to do it. These people, we've showed this picture a whole bunch, but they have it where it's the pictures and then there's images and they all kind of connect together. So those are also options. And then sometimes you don't have to be all that fancy. You can just do fun pictures using the hashtags that you need to use. So hashtags are super important on Instagram. There's lots of different apps if you can't think of hashtags yourself. I always recommend that here locally, definitely use hashtag JCMO. It's a big one here in our community. And then whatever ones kind of fit into your field. So like Libraries of Instagram is a big one for us. Public library is a big one for us, so just finding those.
And even if you're a national, if you have a national audience and you're a national organization, but you're headquartered in Jefferson City, still use JCMO because local people will find you, and then also people who want to know more about Jefferson City and click more on JCMO, they'll be able to know that you're there at that point in time. And so that's kind of a cool catch-all. And then also, one last word on hashtags. Research. I can't tell you the number of times that I've seen people use hashtags, and then you click the hashtag, and like half of it is porn.
Oh.
And that's not what they were selling. So be careful about that. A little bit harder to do on Instagram, but still you might have things that are associated with your brand that you don't want associated with the brand.
And you may have said this before, so I apologize, but someone had shared with me that there's an app that you can like save all your hashtags to. And so if you have one specifically that you use over and over and over?
So I actually just made a keyboard shortcut in my phone. And I have an iPhone, I'm assuming you can do it in other types as well, where I just have it saved, like for the library one, I have it saved as Merle with an extra L, because I type Merle a lot anyway. And so when I type MRRLL, it changes and pulls up to all my hashtags. So that's the easiest way that I found to do it, because I have it for the library, I have it for Norwex, I have it for any kind of marketing stuff.
You remember all those days that T9 really messed you up back in the early days of cell phones? Well, now you can use it against it. So. That's what you're doing. You're basically creating an autocorrect function.
Yeah.
So.
Are hashtags still important for Facebook also, or not so much?
Not so much.
Yeah.
It's just not really, I mean, you can use them, but they're not as searchable as they are on Instagram and Twitter.
And honestly, even with Twitter, unless you're using it a lot, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, with Twitter, I would recommend taking a look at what's trending and what's already being used, and then grab onto that and enjoy the upward trend.
And then these are some examples that we've done before in stories. So the ones before we did were in your feed. These are examples of things in your stories.
And they should play if you click it, but you know. Apparently, PowerPoint's just not
Now it's not
gonna wake up either.
Okay.
Whatever.
It's fine. They're like the boomerangs. You guys have seen them. It's just videos and different options that they have on Instagram.
And if you've been here before, you've seen those are the same images that we used for the takeover of the CVB here in town. And if you haven't seen them, join that Facebook group, and that presentation is in there. So.
Here are some other great options with Instagram and your stories, where you can ask people to ask questions. Or take polls. They can ask questions from you. There's a whole bunch of different features they add. It's a great way to increase engagement. So I recommend sticking them on stuff.
Yeah, people are on social media to give their opinions. So when you ask them their opinions, they're more likely to interact and engage, and then follow your brand.
Okay, and then sometimes obviously it takes a few shots to get the one that you need. So don't be afraid to retake pictures, get the good lighting, try things out to see what works. Oh, we're still going. Yep.
Somebody went to bed before the animations were done last night, and so...
That's what we do. I create the presentations, he just makes them look pretty. Sometimes the pictures come up and I'm like, why'd you pick that one?
She went to bed?
Accurate. Okay, and then obviously having good lighting is important. Equipment, we've talked about this, and since we're running out of time, we probably won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but a good cell phone is really all you need, but tripods and extra lighting help, so. Okay, and then business to business content. So Twitter and LinkedIn have kind of become where a lot of businesses hang out. Although Twitter is obviously not just business focused, it's popular with celebrities and politicians. I personally get all of my bachelor/bachelorette/bachelor in paradise news from Twitter. It's really the only reason I'm on there. But then LinkedIn is obviously very business focused. It's where the experts are. It's where networking happens. You can really solidify your expertness on LinkedIn.
Tweets have very, 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 very short shelf lives. So if you have a massive following, then you can take the time to create like the perfect tweet and then watch it soar, sure. But if you're just getting into the business, honestly, I would just consider your brand's personality and then tweet and watch what works and what doesn't, because here's the deal. It's more than likely going to be dead in a few weeks anyways. Unless, of course, you're a politician or a journalist or a celebrity, in which case people are constantly looking at your past tweets and bringing them back into the highlight. But that's probably not going to be an issue for most brands. Just be careful about what you're doing when you're doing it so that nothing does come back to haunt you.
I have a question on Twitter.
Yeah.
So how often are you supposed to tweet?
Well, that's one of those questions that I typically don't like to answer because it depends on your brand and it depends on your followers and when they're engaging. But unfortunately, the answer is a hell of a lot more than every other platform.
Right.
It is super time consuming. Not only do you have to constantly be churning out fresh content, hoping that something catches on, but then you also have to deal with when it does catch on and the responses and retweets with comments and different things like that.
Right.
So Twitter is a lot of work. I generally recommend that people use Twitter as like the final frontier unless your brand is you and you're trying to put yourself out there a little bit more, in which case you might have a little bit more time to curate that content. Right now, Twitter is also a declining platform. That's important to point out. Now, the majority of the reason that it's actually declining is because of the massive purge that happened after the 2016 election, where they really cut down on the number of bot Twitter accounts. So the numbers are a little deceiving. Even then, though, as I said, it is a slightly declining platform because of the constant negativity. So, really, as much as it's my favorite platform, I recommend you really understand what you're getting yourself into before you jump into Twitter as a bucket to start filling in.
Would you say it's still relevant for events? Like, that's when we use it the most. When we're at an event, like, we tweet. We use the hashtag of the event.
I think if people who are attending the event are using it, that's really like, that's again, I guess the second time that I get on Twitter is if I'm at a big conference and people are using the hashtags,
Exactly.
then I think it's relevant. The nice thing about Twitter is it's not like, you don't have to be on it all the time. Like with Facebook, if you quit posting on Facebook, your algorithm dies and it's hard to get that audience back. With Twitter, you can kind of jump in and jump out and it's okay.
Twitter does not curate content for you as a personal user as much as Facebook curates content for you as a personal user. So like Natalie just said, you have to get a lot of high performing posts to buoy yourself up people's timeline. Where in Twitter, it is an actual timeline. If you follow someone and they tweet, it's in your wall. And someone else tweets, it moves down. Someone else tweets, it moves down. There are sure some sections where it's like things you may like or things you may have missed. But the majority of the time, if you're just looking at Twitter feed, it's just boom, boom, boom. Whatever happens, happens, and in the order it happens. So I don't know. I mean, it depends on whether or not there are people that are engaging with your content on Twitter. that's a good barometer for whether or not you should be tweeting during an event. But I don't think it hurts you to tweet actively during an event and then go dormant until your next event. I don't think that that necessarily hurts you.
Okay, so what kind of image to create? Obviously, there's a lot of text in Twitter, humorous and casual content. You do need a lot of if you want to make that one of your primaries, you need a lot of content. But obviously, you can do a lot at once and then stop. LinkedIn is, you have longer text options like blogs. There's a lot of professional content, resumes and recommendations, that kind of thing.
There are people that are more willing to read long form content on LinkedIn as long as you're intelligent according to them in their professional realm. So for example, if I see not that he does it frequently, but if I see, I'll just use him again, Gus Wagner writes some big old post, I might read that. Just because I know that we have similar interests and he's a professional marketer and he does a good job, so I might have an interest in taking interest in what he has to say. Or, for example, if he shares somebody who's also a marketer, and I might read that too. But it's definitely long form, and consider LinkedIn your professional space. I can't stress enough that you shouldn't be recounting like the last party you went to or the last baseball game even on LinkedIn. That's not what that's about. That is, think of LinkedIn as your living resume, right? Everybody who seeks to hire you is going, if they're doing their due diligence, is going to look at your LinkedIn. They're probably going to look at you everywhere else too, but let's be real. If you have a picture of yourself, doing something silly on Facebook, they might be like, all right, well, that's Facebook. But if that's what you're doing on LinkedIn, that's how you're going to hold yourself in a professional setting. And again, silly is relevant to what you're doing.
Okay, so we're going to do examples.
Got that Wendys creeping up.
She's funny.
So I like this. This is Popeye's chicken. Sounds like someone just ate one of our biscuits because y'all looking thirsty. And Wendy's goes, LOL, guess that means the food's as dry as the jokes. Savage. I'm telling you, like whoever took over Wendy's like several years ago, I mean, they deserve to be like all the money, okay? Silver Dollar City has also had a really good marketing shift recently. It says, this is an aerial view of Outlaw Run. This is a Times New Roman view of Outlaw Run, and they've got the text changed. It's a little bit harder to see on the screen, but it's pretty funny. Now, I will say with this one right here, they use this actually on Facebook and Twitter.
See, Sprout Social. They're using one of those things.
So I will say that this is the most innocuous version of what we were talking about, because they post it on Facebook, the more you know, and they have this quippy picture. Okay, that works. I'm talking about the times when you write a big post that's obviously catered to Facebook, and then you put it on Twitter.
And I completely disagree.
And
I think it's crap to use the same one on all of them. Because I follow them everywhere.
I just said it was the most innocuous. I said it doesn't like
Don't
really
do it. Because I follow them on all of them, and now I'm like, well, I don't need to follow you on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter if you're going to post the same stuff at all of them. Give me different. You could even do this one on Monday on Facebook, and then do this one on Twitter on Friday, and then that doesn't bother me. But you don't post them all at the same time.
Give me a click.
No.
All right, my tweet was crap, so I'm going to give you some free ones. This is the slide that I went ahead and gave you some stuff. Arby's also really good at the Twitters lately. So this is actually a video, and I tried to capture it, but at 10 o'clock last night I decided to stop. And you know what? I'm glad I did, because it ain't working anyway. So they actually they do a lot of stuff with their food, like artwork and stuff, and they've been really catering to like the video game sphere, because Twitter is full of people who hate other people, are super political, and there's a lot of crossover there. And then gamers, and then people who are just trying to stay out of everybody else's way. Science, tech, all STEM stuff. But they drew a line across the map and then wrote Area 51, and they say, we're going there. No, really, we're going there, Area 51, and we're bringing a special menu. We'll see this weekend if they go there. But, that's kind of, that's fresh content. It's kind of cool, and it kind of got me to stop and obviously take a picture and show you, so there it is. Then there's Wendys. Okay, so who's heard of Mario? Just checking. Okay, now who's heard of Mario Maker? I'm procrastinating. So Mario Maker is a game that allows you to build Mario levels. Okay, there's a reason behind this. So they put up a picture that says more than just one level, we've made a whole world. So this is Wendys, obviously catering to a very specific demographic of video gamers, right? They went the extra mile. No, they really did. So in the game, you can type these codes in and find their levels that they made. So they allowed their marketing team, probably when they started being awesome, they were like, all right, marketers, you do whatever you want. You don't have to come into work for the next month as long as you keep producing this. Because Wendys probably has never had a bigger
Wendy's
profit
the one that
margin.
said, where's the beef?
Yes. Yep. So apparently, they allowed their marketers to play a video game and then obviously use that to market to people. That's super cool. So if you have that game, you can go play some levels that Wendys created. Now you're playing a video game and you jump into Mario Maker and you go and you see that Wendys thing and you're like, man, I'm kind of hungry. I can take some Wendys, right? So that's, you see, she's going to screenshot. Are you going to play it later?
I have an 11-year-old who's obsessed with this, and she has the Mario Maker game for the Wii U, I think?
Uh-huh.
Well, anyway, and her favorite place is Wendy's.
Oh!
Every day she's like, can we get Wendy's?
Okay,
Look
well,
what Mom didn't work today.
Yeah.
So I'll warn you that this is 2. It came out for the Nintendo Switch.
She has this, okay.
There you go.
She's
There you
got
go.
them all. I don't play, but she makes these levels, and I can't pass any of them.
See, I just want to make sure, because I can sympathize with you, because I have a 32-year-old who likes to play video games.
I can sympathize.
The problem isn't the time anymore.
All right, we got 3 minutes.
I said the problem is the time anymore. All right, so here's some examples of LinkedIn. Notice how, obviously, there's a lot more content in some aspects. Also, there's a lot of people being tagged in there. That's a good idea, too, because then you get those people to come in and interact and maybe share and get a broader network.
And you can use humor on LinkedIn.
Oh, absolutely.
Scott Stratton is a really good author, too, if you haven't read any of his books.
Or listen to his podcast, podcast.
Yeah, he's got a good podcast, too. But this is a photo shoot they did for his first book, QR Codes Kill Kittens. And it says banned Candy Crush invites. And he's like 6 years ago, still making the rounds on the internet, and everyone laughed and all that stuff.
But that's the point, and that's what I said earlier. I said, silly is relevant to what you're doing. If your job is to be humorous professional, then that's fine, right? But you just have to understand that, central bank probably isn't going to hire Scott Stratton with all of his tattoos and his, a little bit more humorous bent. They're probably going to look for somebody that's a little bit more banky. No offense to any bankers, but and then a friend of mine wrote a book and started his own business, Conduit Construct. He's a professor out in Portland, so he's obviously showing people about telling people about his book. He's a former salesman, so he has a big, wide network. So obviously, here you go. He's selling himself on LinkedIn, right? But he's also providing informational content to the consumer as well. So obviously, as you can see, it's just a little bit different. You've got one humorous thing, sure, but that's not going to work.
It's a
for the
lot more
majority
like
of people.
blogs and academic type information.
Very much so.
Okay, and so we're going to cover one more really fast, and this really caters to anyone. Pinterest. 83% of users are female. Women are 4 times as likely to use it. Content can live forever. So we have not really posted to the library's Pinterest since I've been here for 2.5 years. We still get a ton of reach on it. So
real quick, I was going to say, funny story. So I went ahead and put Pinterest here just because last night at 10 o'clock, I was trying to find an image, and obviously 83% of the users are female, so I just Googled lots of women. And interestingly enough, I kept coming up with Mitt Romney's binder full of women, and I was like, well, I probably won't use that in the morning. So you got Pinterest.
what kind of content do you want to create there? Blogs are obviously good. Do-it-yourself content, how-tos. Anything for moms, teachers, crafters, and entrepreneurs. Oh, that's funny.
I know my
This is what happens when I leave him alone with the computer.
And I search for lots of women.
And and this is important to think about too, like the do-it-yourself content and the how-tos. If you are a hairstylist or a makeup artist and you want to do a makeup tutorial, at the library, when we do craft programs, we create how to do the craft. Like, oh, you couldn't make it to our silk dyeing? Here, you can do it yourself at home. Here's how you do it, that kind of stuff. So here are just some examples that we'll kind of touch on. And what I find interesting, so Jennifer Allwood is like the Pinterest queen. She built her entire business on there. And she started out with all this home decor, how to paint, do it yourself. And now her business is teaching other entrepreneurs how to do those things, like how to go live, how to create blog content, how to monetize. So she got really good at this, and then now this is what she does, and she teaches other people how to do it. Same with Kate's The Small Things blog. She also happened to get on Pinterest right when it became big, and did all these hair tutorials, and now she has this huge blog, as well as, and both of them are very active on Instagram as well. And then Nom Nom Paleo, any recipes or food ideas, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that you can put on there. And the great thing also about Pinterest is you can create your own content to put on that you link to your website, but you can also just have boards that kind of apply to what you do. So like CDFY, you guys could have a Pinterest board that just talks about fun, safe ideas for kids to do on Halloween. What are fun things to do? And that's very timely.
Or make your own costumes, because there's people that can't afford costumes, and they might want to know how to make costumes in 2019. I made all mine growing up, but now that's not what you do.
It's because your wife works.
I don't wear a costume. But there's also a large group of people on Pinterest who only go on there to curate content. They don't produce anything. So that's the other thing to think about. I, for example, have several Pinterest boards for various things, but I don't ever put anything out. So I'm watching. So there are people that are like that out there on social media, that are just out there to get ideas and kind of move and shake. So think about that from that perspective as well.
For sure. And you can also do stuff, Oscars, where you have one that's pie recipes, but then you also have one that says, who has time to make a pie? Come buy it at Oscars. So there's other ways to do it where you're still driving content, but still fitting in whatever it is that you're selling.
Yeah, you can do a time comparison between making it and buying it.
Done.
Which would be content for anything. Really. You can use that for anything.
I like it.
Anyways.
Okay.
All right.
Any questions? We are a plug for October, so it's whatever the third Wednesday of October is. So we're back at the chamber. We're doing SEO. Communicate's going to talk about SEO. And then we're going to have a work session if you want to stay. So we were thinking if you want to bring snacks to share or that kind of thing, because then at 11, we're doing the Google webinar on holiday email marketing. So because we had this regular social media forum and then this bonus webinar, we thought if people want to stick around and bring your computers, we can just brainstorm, network, chit-chat, get ideas out. So we thought it might be easier to just tell your boss, if you're not the boss, that whole morning has activities.
Do we have to RSVP for the second session?
Yes. So I'll make sure, if I haven't, that Kelsey has the link and they'll email it out with the RSVP. And I'll post it in the Facebook group too.
So the regular 8 a.m. and then 11 a.m.
Yes. Yeah. And then in between from 9 to 11, we just thought, if you want to work on batch creating images, or if we want to talk about influencer marketing more, or it won't be like a formal presentation. It'll just be us hanging out. They'll have coffee and tea, and if you want to bring snacks to share, and we just thought it might be fun. It's easier sometimes to stay downtown than to leave and come back. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.